All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're talking about popular culture. All the movies, the music, the shows we stream, and how it's so much more than just a way to kill time. Especially for communities like the Chicanx and Latinx communities, it's a really important space where identity gets shaped, challenged, and even created from scratch.
I mean, have you ever had that feeling you're watching something and a character comes on screen and you just think, wow, that's me? It's like they reached into your head and pulled you out. It's an amazing feeling, right? To feel seen.
But then there's the flip side. That cringy moment when you see a character who's supposed to represent you, but it's just a caricature. It doesn't just miss the mark, it feels totally wrong, maybe even a little insulting. Both of those feelings, being seen and being misrepresented, are right at the heart of what we're digging into today.
So to really get a handle on this whole dynamic, we need to be on the same page. Let's start with the big question. What even is pop culture? And before that, what is culture itself?
Okay, so at its core, culture is just a shared system of meaning. It's the glue that holds a group together. Think about it. It's the stories we tell, the inside jokes we have, the traditions we follow. It's basically how we make sense of the world and figure out where we fit in.
Now, for a long time, people mostly talked about high culture, classical music, Shakespeare, fancy art gallery stuff, things that were often seen as being for the upper crust. But what we're focused on is popular culture. This is the stuff for the rest of us, the TV shows, the blockbuster movies, the viral TikToks. This is where you see everyday life reflected back at us. And that is exactly why it matters so much. Pop culture is not trivial, it's not just fluff. It is a super powerful space where we find people who look and sound like us, where we build our own sense of who we are, and, crucially, where we can fight back against nasty stereotypes.
Which brings us to a really key idea. Pop culture isn't some neutral playground. No, it's more like a battleground for ideas about who we are. In fact, a lot of academics call it a site of struggle. And I love that phrase because it perfectly captures this constant tension. It's not a settled thing, it's an active, ongoing fight over meaning and identity.
Just picture a constant tug of war. On one end of the rope, you've got these forces trying to put people in neat little boxes, trying to define and limit their identity. And on the other end, you have creators and communities pulling back, resisting, and making brand new, authentic ways to express themselves.
So how does this battle actually play out in the media we watch? Well, it's not like a creator just sends out a message and we all get it the exact same way. It's way more of a two-way street than that.
First, you've got what's called encoding. This is the part where the creators, the writers, the directors, you name it, pack their own ideas, their own values, their own intended meanings into the story they're telling. They are literally encoding a message. But that's only half the equation. The other half is decoding. And that's our job as the audience. We take that message and we interpret it through the filter of our own lives, our own experiences, and our own beliefs. Our decoding might end up being something completely different than what the creator intended. And this model here from the brilliant scholar Stuart Hall shows it perfectly. See? Media isn't a lecture, it's a conversation. It's a negotiation of meaning happening back and forth between the people who make the stuff and the people, like us, who consume it.
Okay, so let's zoom in on what happens when that encoding process creates something really harmful. We all know the word stereotype, but there's an even more powerful concept we need to unpack.
So, a stereotype, right? It's a lazy, oversimplified, and usually negative idea about a whole group of people. It's a mental shortcut, and frankly, a pretty bad one.
But the scholar Patricia Hill Collins gave us a much sharper term, controlling images. Now, these are not just your average stereotypes. These are powerful, endlessly repeated tropes that are actually used to justify big systems of inequality, like racism and sexism. They have a political job to do.
And you have absolutely seen these, even if you didn't have a name for them. We're talking about the Latin lover, the cantina girl, or la domestica, the maid. These images are so damaging because they take millions of complex, real human beings and flatten them into these few, boring, and predictable roles. And let's be super clear, this isn't just harmless fun in a movie. The constant barrage of these images has a real tangible impact. It can damage a person's self-esteem, contribute to mental health issues, and even lead to actual discrimination in things like getting a job or fair treatment. But, and this is a really important but, remember that tug-of-war? Audiences are not just passive victims. We have some really clever and powerful ways of fighting back and making our own meaning.
One of the most fascinating strategies is something scholar Jose Esteban Munoz called disidentification. Think of it as a clever survival tactic for getting through a media landscape that often fails to represent you accurately or fully.
So, how does it work? It's actually a pretty genius three-step process. First, you connect. You find the pieces of a character or a story that do resonate with you, the parts that feel true. Second, you reject. You actively throw out the parts that are harmful or just don't fit. And finally, you create. You take the good pieces you kept and you build a brand new, personal meaning that empowers you. It's a total act of creative resistance.
So, when you take a step back and look at this whole picture, the struggle, the messages, the resistance, you start to realize something profound about culture. It's not just some fixed thing that gets passed down to you like your grandma's old china.
It's something you are actively building and rebuilding every single day. You're not just a consumer of culture, you're a co-creator.
And that really leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In this ongoing struggle, in this constant act of creation, what stories will you help build?